life be like that, though. Let's get it poppin'. Let's get it poppin'. URLTV.tv. Only stage where it matters, ladies and gentlemen. Trans conservatives versus trans liberals. Let's dive in.
Being a non-binary person that sometimes has the choice to either go into a men's restroom looking like this. So you can look at me looking like this.
It's just interesting that I thought this was a trans debate. That's what I thought.
Non-binary people.
Non-binary people fall under the trans umbrella. Yeah. So I don't know.
Let's fucking go. Stage 1, step 1. Out the gate.
Maybe you could educate yourself a little bit on that.
I think I could educate you.
Maybe then you would figure out,
I think I could educate
you know, what
right?
reality is.
Oh, whoa. It is a safety concern for trans women to share a female restroom.
If anybody agrees to this prompt, I'm gonna lose my mind.
Can the agreeers please step forward?
Before we begin this episode, we know there's been a lot of anticipation for this topic.
And these motherfuckers is ghouls, bro. These motherfuckers is ghouls. These motherfuckers is ghouls. You see the evil in these motherfuckers. Yeah, you're highly anticipated. Just like your Nazis versus socialist shit. Like, get the fuck out of here.
That is why we're excited to release an extended cut of this episode featuring all prompts on our Middle Ground Patreon.
This is something that you guys have been asking us about for years, and we're excited to finally be able to do it. And when you support our Patreon, you help us to make Middle Ground a show that truly provokes understanding and creates human connection.
And that is the point of Middle Ground. So now let's get into the video.
Forward.
Oh.
It depends. Yes.
Yeah,
So I think that to start it off though too is it's not necessarily saying that trans women, it all comes down to self-ID. When we moved into a self-ID process, there are a lot of people, there are a lot of men just simply self-IDing into being trans women to utilize the female restroom and to
Dog, that's what they said in the fucking in the blurb. In the blurb. Remember? It was like Holocaust survivors versus Holocaust deniers. Yo,
to harm women. I think
Or
that's the
just
biggest
be
thing.
there.
men rape already.
They're getting arousal from just being there.
You know, there's a photo, or it was a video that went viral, I think like just 2 weeks ago, with some like whole man with a boner in the women's restroom. And there's just some poor woman filming it. Like, am I just supposed to like accept that this is here? So I think there's levels to it. I think that trans women who are actually trans, you know, we're talking gender dysphoria, transitions, making the effort, you know, probably once you reach a certain point in your transition where you can actually assimilate within that space and not call.
Oh, passability politics is where you're going? Okay, I am about to lose it. Oh, I had it all, it was it all, but in the end, it doesn't even matter.
Cause a disruptance, that would probably be the ideal time to start doing that, right? Whereas, you know, a cross-dresser who is emboldened to, in this current climate, say that they're trans, because now anything is trans if you say so.
I want Blaire White in the octagon. I want Blaire White in the octagon. I want Blaire White. I want Blaire White in the octagon.
That person should probably stay absolutely out of women's restrooms, because you're there to get your rocks off.
Oh my God, you're saying this in her face and you can tell it's affecting her.
And the women are there to take a poop and a pee. So it's not the same.
All toilets are for pooping and peeing. What are you talking about?
And, I really empathize with women who, have an issue with it. And I can probably hear some women commenting, well, how do I know the difference between a fetishist and a real trans person? It's hard. It's hard. However, that's the only nuance that I know to give to it, which is there's different reasons people are trans, and some people really are trans because they're horny, and some people are trans because they really felt that way from, a young age or whatever.
See, I agree to an extent. Like, when you go to transition, and this is a fairly universal experience, once you get to a certain point of passing, that's about the time that you would start going into the other bathroom as opposed to not make the same sex uncomfortable. Once you reach that point in your transition, a lot of things change, but you start to see things from another perspective. You start to see things from the perspective of a cis person.
Yeah.
And I actually offer some solutions to this because I believe the free market can handle all of this stuff because in government-run and government-funded buildings, there should always be a third space for us to use. And I do when I go to the
Yeah, it's over. It's over. It's over. It's so over. We're cooked. We're cooked. It don't matter if I say trans rights no more. Half the people I'm advocating for talking like this. Yo, it's over. They did everything right and they indicted them. No!
the Capitol and stuff like that, I always use third spaces. But I think that private property owners can make the rules for their establishment and
Because it's gonna get to a point where my dumb ass is gonna say, hey, so I don't have gender dysphoria. I'm okay with what I was born at birth. Here's my thing for you though. When you talk about like,
But I think that private property owners can make the rules for their establishment and figure out how to enforce those rules.
when you say something like that, do you mean private companies as well? Because the US treats corporations as people. And again, if you're watching this on Twitch, I'm taking the pauses for the fucking video. So relax.
I mean, I wouldn't say third
being allowed,
spaces for
though.
trans
Exactly.
people.
Like
just
we're in a state right
general.
now. We're in a state right now where you have to allow anybody to use whatever restroom they want.
If you're a decent human being, you do what causes the least disturbance. So,
Oh my God, trans people are disturbing others by existing. Game over, you
for
lose.
example, I filmed a YouTube video a few years ago where I entered a men's restroom just because I was responding to comments who were like, well, maybe you should use a men's restroom if you really feel like the way you feel. And so I said, okay, let's do it. Let's put a camera. And I was kicked out within seconds of the entire establishment, and it was a whole ruckus. So that's what I mean by if you're a decent person, you do what causes the least amount of problems for people around you.
Does she not hear herself? There's no shot she didn't come there with a script in her head. That
And if you're, a moral person, you're going to be conflict avoidant in general when it's something like that, right? It's like,
Yeah.
what's the point of causing issues for anyone, especially if you're really just trying to pee,
Honestly, just put
get
your
it
head
done.
down, go in, get out.
Right.
Can the disagreeers please step
let's
forward?
go, disagreeers. Come on. Swing hard, baby. Swing hard. We looking for something.
Blaire's point. The one thing I kept hearing through all of the nuance is passability.
I never
Because
said that.
ultimately, when we talk about passability,
Did she say I never said that? Sorry, bitch. I learned in 3rd grade about how to infer meaning.
it determines how you get harassed in the bathroom. Because honestly, if you don't look so passable or whatnot, people are going to say, oh, that's a man with a dress on, and then there's going to be discourse. But the reality of it is, honestly, who cares who's trans and who's cis going in the bathroom? You should be minding your own business, being able to pee and do your business in peace, for the most part. That conversation around this man with a boner on or whatever like that, I saw that picture and I thought to myself, that's really a right-wing talking point. And
Let's go! Let's go! Yes, they finally brought somebody on to be like, wait a minute. We're not even talking about real shit right now. That's all I want. See, there you go. Look at that. Right there. There you go. Real life example.
Conservative propaganda, because that's their ideology.
How is it
when
It was a
comes
thing
to
that
trans?
happened.
I'm speaking. That's their ideology when it
Bitch giving a
comes to trans. It's because conservatives have a basic level
understanding of what
transness
transness is.
in the first place. And with all due respect, I do not think any of you are basic, but they use you as the baseline to
Assimilate.
amplifying this
Right.
propaganda.
How is it
ask you a question?
propaganda if it's a thing that really happened? It was caught on video. Like it was an actual occurrence. It wasn't
Okay.
staged. It happened, and that's not the only. It's not an isolated
Dog, have you ever heard of what state propaganda is?
incident.
But that's not enough for me to say, because actors can do that. Who knows? They could have been an actor trying to make a point against trans people. But this has always been our battle. It's just like, from what I just heard you were saying with your talking points, because I did understand what you were saying. I just got the word passability out of there, and
Which I didn't
to
say
a-
that word at all.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
no,
saying
he
that
said
word.
passability.
I'm saying
She didn't say it. He
I'm-
did. And the
I'll say
problem,
it.
the left.
Okay, I can't.
The
I
problem
couldn't
with
hear.
the-
I just couldn't hear back there.
The
But no, what I was
liberals,
saying
the
was,
liberals always use the.
yeah. No, what I'm saying is, I'm not saying you said that word. What I was getting out of what you were saying, the one word that was coming to me.
Bitch, you know what she was
passability.
talking
This is
about.
Blossom saying it. And so passability politics is really a thing in our trans community, especially when we come to the debate of restrooms.
Well, you can say it's politics, but actually it's just real life, right? It's just about
Correct.
where
I
you're
agree.
able.
Politics? It's not politics, it's just real life. Blaire, I hate to tell you this, but the whole shtick about you being one of the good ones doesn't work here.
To assimilate to and where you're not. And I think one of the biggest problems in the trans community is the community by and large has seemed to reject assimilation and seems hell-bent on.
That's not true.
I think it's
The trans community as a whole wants to reject assimilation. Put black people in the middle of that phrase, and what the fuck are you on about?
absolutely true, which is
Assimilate into what? The binary?
you see people talking about how you don't need to work on your transition at all to enter women's restrooms, and I think that that is so selfish.
That drives
so
me crazy.
it's so disregarding of women who may or may not feel
But
uncomfortable.
the trans woman experience is not monolithic. So who are we
I
to
never said it
police transness? Why are we policing other people's transness
I'm
and
just
how they
listening to
show
women.
up?
We have to protect.
I'm just listening to women, you fucking weirdo!
Women.
Why are y'all policing though? That's what I don't understand.
You're using words
there's
that we're not
policing.
using. It's not policing. We're listening
You're using words that we're not using. Shut up!
to women, and if you have 50%, we won't say 50%, but if you have a large chunk of the population of women saying that they are uncomfortable with a certain thing, a good person leans in and listens.
So why
they
are
don't
you
just
not listening
reject
to
it.
other trans women, Blaire?
I
think
do
that-
all day,
Okay,
right
so-
now.
But you didn't, and I'm not trying to be combative or whatever like that. I'm just trying to figure out, you know what I'm saying, what the middle ground would be between you and I, because you said one side and that's great, but what about the side of trans women? If we're not bringing both sides into this conversation,
Here's what I would say
then it
then.
is unbalanced.
Here's what I would say then, because I do understand both sides. I didn't, I'm almost a decade into my transition, which means I was one time a year in, 6 months in, 2 months in. So I understand that, but I also knew at the very beginning of my transition that if I'm not at a place physically where I'm not making people feel uncomfortable, or I'm making people uncomfortable, then
Right.
that's on me. That's my
Correct.
responsibility to make sure that I'm going places a certain way to make.
I'm going to say again that I am not trans, but I listen to trans people. This argument is ridiculous. This is actual fucking nonsense. And I'm gonna break it down to you one way or another. If the idea of passability is the concern, then all cis women are now subject to, you look like a man, do you have a penis? You lose the game. It doesn't matter how passing the trans people are because you've already lost the game.
make sure that they're comfortable.
Because it's for
It
your
was my
safety
respons-
also, too, right?
Well,
Would you also say
can-
that you're safe?
Well,
Your
I know
safety
that
plays a part.
you seem to be looking at through the lens of always trans being the priority. I'm looking at through the lens of women being the priority
I thought this was a trans debate.
here. There's
But
plenty of situations.
Why? I just want to know
Because
why
it's them who
around
would
that.
fall victim to not actual trans women, as I said, but people posing as trans women.
Because those people are the people who are at threat of fake trans women. But that doesn't, that you're not making any sense. Because if a man is using the moniker or the identity to assault people, then that's just a man doing that.
People who are
But trans
actually
women are
trans.
also victims of that as well.
I'm sorry. I would love it if the two of you have said your piece, and I would love to hear